welcome to the 2018 Open Provincials at Panorama Lanes in Medicine Hat. I'm Michelle Manton, and this is my cohort here, Ray Margo. He's going to be helping me out. We've got two games going on right now. It is the 5th place versus the 4th place in the stepladder. For the men, we have Gene Ziebarth, who was in 5th place, bowling against Derek Lewicki, who was in 4th place. And who do we have over with the women, Ray?
Oh, we have Bobbi Sisko from Medicine Hat and Corri Pigeau. She's from North Zone Grand Prairie. And we've seen some wonderful action here today. We've seen some great bowling and lots of enthusiasm. I've known Gene Ziebarth for about 40 years, and he's one of the best that's ever played this game. And he's taking on Derek Lewicki from Lethbridge. And Gino punched a head pin the first frame, so he ended up with 10 in that first frame.
Yeah, it's a tough break, that head pin, isn't it?
Well, in 5-pin bowling, it's probably the one thing that is really difficult, because it's very difficult to make a spare with the head pin. It happens the odd time. We've had one here today. I saw Adam Weber. That's from Calgary spared one, but it's a rare shot, and it's hard to get a good score because you can't get a spare out of it.
Right.
Now Derek is throwing here, and he just missed a head pin to the right-hand side. That's worth 5. Scoring in 5-pin bowling, if you're not familiar with it, it's a 15-point system, so it's 5 pins, or 5 points for the head pin, which is the pin right in the middle. Then each of the pins on either side are worth 3, and each of the pins on the corners are worth 2. Derek just made a nice spare there.
Yep.
And then the way to score, of course, with any kind of bowling is to make strikes and spares.
Right.
So with 5-pin bowling, you've got a perfect game would be 450. So that'd be 12 strikes in a row. Mm-hmm. Very rare.
Very rare, yes.
Celebrated. Anybody does it has really done something. And
on that note, I believe Gino's had 3 perfect games.
Gino has had 3 perfect games, and he's had many, many games over the years that have been in the 400s.
Yeah, I know. I've got Derek's here. His high game is a 418, which is not too shabby either.
Oh, there's a good ball by Derek.
Yeah, it was a great ball with the strike, so that's going to be a great count on that spare.
And what you want to do in bowling, too, is the head pin is what you want to hit on your first ball, but you don't want to hit it straight on the nose.
No.
There's actually 3 sides. So there's a left side of the head pin, a right side of the head pin, and right on the nose, and you don't want to be right on the nose.
Yeah.
There, Gino threw a nice shot there.
Yeah, that was a great answer to that strike that Derek had.
Yeah. So we're starting to see this heating up here. Now, this has been a long day for these
Yeah,
bowlers.
They put in 10 games already.
They played 10 games in tough competition here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially on the men's side, it just really, it was, we didn't know who was going to be in that top 5 until the very last game. It came right down to it.
Well, and so often it does, Michelle. It comes right down to the wire. And, it's sometimes the person who's got what's left in their legs. Other times it's just attitude.
As a matter of fact, Gino threw, I believe, a 345, I believe it was. Somewhere in there to get into this. He brought him up 100 points, which was quite impressive.
Now, earlier in the day he was struggling, but being the champion he is, he came on at the end and made this final 5. Oh, and Harry carried one.
Yeah.
Carried that corner.
That puts a little pressure on Derek, for sure, to answer that back. Let's see what he's going to do. It's so hard, when you go in there and you try and you're trying too hard to make the shot. Sometimes that's where those head pins will come out. Oh,
that's for sure. Yeah, it's so much as you want to be focused, but you also want to be relaxed.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do for any athlete. Will find that it's finding that
fine
perfect
balance.
slot.
Yeah.
Fine balance. It really
Absolutely.
is. Yeah. So.
Now on the women's side, I know we've got Corri Pigeau and.
Oh, Derek threw a good shot.
Oh, excellent. Corri Pigeau and Bobbi Sisko. I should mention Bobbi Sisko threw a 371 in her last game to bring her up into the 5th spot.
Wow.
So, which that just shows you the caliber of bowlers that we've got going on this step ladder. It's going to be some really great bowling today.
Yeah, and Bobbi has been a provincial champion before, gone to nationals. I think she was the national champion, wasn't she, Michelle?
She's been to nationals 5 times, but the women's team made silver in 2006.
Right, so it'd be great for her to get back there and represent Medicine Hat at the nationals in Gatineau, Quebec at the end of May.
All right.
And Derek missed to the right there, so he got 5. He had 2 strikes in a row, so that counts 35 on his ball and his frame in the second frame.
Yeah, and he's going to go for the spare now, which let's hope he gets. And Derek's been bowling for 42 years.
42 years.
Yeah, which let's see, I think Gino probably has him beat. Yeah, no, maybe not 40 years.
40 years, yeah.
So you've got some 2 very, very experienced, very veteran bowlers.
Experienced here, yeah.
That's going to be... Derek Lewicki also has made it to the Open Nationals with the men's team, and they got silver in 2002.
Okay. And Derek did clean that up for 15 in that frame. He broke off his string of 3 marks in a row, had a spare and 2 strikes, and then he cleans it up for 104th, which is a good score. That would translate to a 250 game if he had the rest of the way with that score.
Absolutely, yeah. 100's not too bad to be sitting in the 4th frame. So let's see what Gene Ziebarth comes back with. He can certainly put some pressure on Derek should he throw another strike.
Well, I should mention, too, that Gino has been a participant in a lot of the money tournaments over the years, and he's won the Regina Classic tournament, I think it's 4 or 5 times.
Oh, wow.
So he's extremely experienced. He plays on the Western Canada Bowling Tour, which is a semi-pro tour.
So Gino just hit a split, which is when you hit the head pin and the 3 pin on either side of it, which is also very difficult to spare. About as difficult as a head pin, although we did see one of those spared today as well. Yeah,
saw that spared today as well. So these shots are possible. They're kind of rare, but they are possible.
I should also mention Gino just made the Alberta Masters men's team this year as well. So he's having a pretty good year in bowling.
The Masters Nationals are going to be played at the end of June.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember the locale.
I want to say Thunder Bay, but
it is Thunder Bay. You're right, Michelle. Yeah, it's Thunder Bay, and that'll be a good trip. Some of these top bowlers have traveled all across the country over the years.
So just a little update on the women's game. They're sitting in the 4th frame right now. Bobbi Sisko is leading Corri Pigeau. She's got 105 in the 4th frame, while Corri has 91, which isn't a lot of points. It doesn't say if they're on any marks or not, but that's a good close game, which is to be expected.
I'm just watching Gene Ziebarth here. He punched a head pin in 4th frame. 5th frame, I should say.
Yeah, those are really some tough breaks. As you can see, it really just opens things up for Derek Lewicki.
Yeah. One thing you notice at this level of competition, Michelle, is these players don't miss the head pin very often.
Oh,
if you're going to score well in 5-pin bowling, it's really key to make sure you're on the head pin and hitting it on either the left or right hand side so you can score well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So Gino picks up 12 in that 5th frame. So it gives him 99 in the 5th.
Yeah.
And Derek is coming up in his 5th frame right now.
Yeah. Now, Corri Pigeau from Grand Prairie, she's been bowling for 33 years. This is her 3rd Open that she's been in. She is very active in their YBC program there in Grand Prairie. She's done coaching. I know I ran into her at the Youth Challenge Provincials this year, which was nice.
Derek just got a strike in the 5th, and that makes up some points there. It's going to be a pretty close match now. Derek would have a slight lead because he had that strike in the 5th here now.
Yeah, it certainly helps to get those marks, to build on them. But as we both know, there's a lot of points in the second half of the game.
Absolutely, 225 points in the second half of the game. So even if you're behind, you can make up a lot of room, a lot at the end here. And even the 10th frame alone is 45 points.
Exactly. Oh, there must have been some action down there with the ladies. I'm guessing somebody must have got a striker spare.
Oh,
right.
And Derek punched a head pin there in the 6th frame, so again, that kind of stops his progress because it's hard to make a...
Yeah, so what's important for him right now is to make sure he's cleaning up
sure.
all of his wood, all the pins, and make sure he gets the most points that he can get on that strike.
That can certainly make a difference.
Yeah.
You know, it's difficult to punch pins, but if you clean up your wood, it can make a difference at the end of the game.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Quite often, whoever plays the cleanest game, they say. A clean game would mean you pick up all your wood, and quite often the person who plays the cleanest game wins the match.
Yeah, and I know we both seen it where games have been won by 1 or 2 pins.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So it's really important to make sure that you take advantage of every single pin up there. You don't really want to leave anything on the pin deck, that's for sure.
But it takes discipline to keep your head in it and pick up those pins.
Absolutely, because it can be very frustrating to especially if you've got a head pin, right? To make sure you keep your cool and clean everything up. So let's see what Gino does to answer that.
Looks like a good shot from here. Yeah, Gino hits the right pocket and gets a strike in the 6th frame. So now that's something he can count on.
Sure.
You know, it could be as much as 45 if he gets 2 more strikes on that strike.
Absolutely, which would bring him right in where Derek is. As you can see, it's always anybody's game, right? And Gino's from Millet, Alberta. But I'm not sure. I know he bowls in Stettler. I'm sure he bowls in Heritage. He kind of bowls everywhere.
Actually, Gino has bowled in Central Zone. He's out of Central Zone, which is the Red Deer area. But he's also bowled out of the Edmonton Zone.
Right. I think actually one or maybe 2 of his perfect games, I think, came out of Bonnie Doon,
That's
if I'm not
correct,
mistaken.
out of Bonnie Doon Lanes in Edmonton.
Yeah.
And he's bowled perfect games in out of province as well.
Right.
Like in Regina for sure, probably Saskatoon.
Yeah.
She's been in this game a long time and done very well. Tried to talk to it, but couldn't quite get that right corner to fall.
No. And they say the corner spare is one of the easiest spares, although it doesn't often feel that way.
It's supposed to be because there's only one pin, but it's over in the corner there.
Yeah,
so you can't miss on one side.
No.
If you miss on the right-hand side, in this case with Gino, you would be in the channel. There he goes. He's right on that
But he picks it with no problem.
Yeah. And those are confidence builders too. If you pick your corner pins.
Absolutely. There's nothing more frustrating than not being able to spare up your shot, knowing that you should be doing that.
Yeah.
So right there, that alone brings Gino within, 6 points in the 6th frame.
Yeah, it's a really close match here.
Yeah.
And these players, like we said, are well experienced. They've been in this kind of situation before, and they're both playing well here in Medicine Hat today.
And I should mention, great answer from Derek Lewicki to get the strike there in the 7th. I was going to say Derek Lewicki bowls out of Holiday Bowl in Lethbridge.
Right.
And has also been bowling for quite some time. I believe I mentioned that he'd been bowling for 42 years, which, it's just about as long as I've been alive. So.
Derek has the nickname of Baird.
Yes.
He's a tall, thin man, and I guess that's why he's called Baird.
I'm sure, yeah.
Maybe like Big Bird.
That didn't probably take too much imagination to come up with that.
No. But a lot of these players have nicknames, and they become very close friends over the years.
Yes.
Not just with people in their own zone, but people across the whole province and sometimes across the whole country.
Absolutely. The more of these types of tournaments that you bowl in, you get to know a lot of these same people, which is great because it almost becomes like a little reunion every time you come to a provincial tournament.
Yeah. And there's a big social part to 5-pin bowling as well. There's league bowling, of course. There's open bowling, things like glow bowling.
Yeah.
You can go out and have a good time at this game, and if you want to be competitive, you can be as competitive as you like, and you might end up playing here.
Absolutely. The Open brings out like the best bowlers in Alberta.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
for sure. So Derek just spared up by 12 count. He got a little bonus pin there on his first ball.
Yeah, that seems to happen quite a bit here. They've tried to tune up the lanes so there'll be some kickbacks to make things interesting. Kickback is when a pin comes from the side of the back and knocks down another pin.
I don't suppose you know. I know in 5-pin bowling there is a little bit of leniency of like how far the pins are apart.
18 inches apart.
Right,
Yeah.
because I know I've bowled in some houses where there's 17, and it sure can change.
Oh, Gino pulled the strike.
A great answer from Gino Ziebarth.
Yeah.
That sure can make a difference sometimes, too.
Well, like they say about most sports, it's a game of inches, right? And
Right.
same thing with bowling, especially with the small ball. This ball, the most is 5 inches in diameter.
Right.
And the most heaviest ball is 3 pounds, 12 ounces.
Right.
The lightest ball is 4 inches and 4 pounds, 3/4.
Right.
So you're shooting with a fairly small ball. You have to be accurate with the ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
10
just-
pin's a little different that
Right.
way because you got a bigger ball, but then it's got its own.
Sure.
It's got its own challenges as
Absolutely,
well. So,
absolutely. Just a little update from the ladies over there. So we're sitting in the 8th frame. Corri Pigeau has moved ahead. She's sitting at 201 after 8 frames, and Bobbi Sisko is sitting at 187. So still a really, really close
it's
game.
anybody's game again, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is 90 pins there in those last 2 frames. So unfortunately, Gino has hit another head pin. He's got a little bonus kick there, though, with the 2 pin for a 7 count on his first ball.
I should mention that there's Canadian Championships. There's teams from every province in the country, really, except New Brunswick, where they play more candlepin. They don't play so much 5-pin.
Right.
That's going to be coming up, like I said before, in Gatineau, Quebec. And these players are all trying to make that trip. They're trying to win a berth on that the national team representing Alberta.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, unfortunately for Gino, probably 9th frame is the worst place that you can get a head pin.
It sure is, because that's what we call the foundation frame.
Yeah.
And when you've got that foundation, it's like a springboard to get a better count and finish up your game better.
Yeah.
And get, of course, a better score. So you'd like to get a striker or spare in the 9th frame for sure to have a good foundation.
Absolutely. So let's see what Derek Lewicki does in his 9th frame. He's up getting ready to throw his first ball. He is working on a spare in the 8th frame, which is a nice way to go in.
He's got, he threw the ball in the pocket there, but like it happens quite often with 5-pin bowling, you can get corner pins even if you do throw a good shot, you know. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's part of the game, and you got to be patient and pick up those pins.
It's going to be key for Derek to pick this corner pin.
It sure is this time of the game, yeah.
Yeah. That does move him ahead a bit from Gino, but certainly does not.
He's right on that pin, too.
Yeah, no, that was great. That spare was really important for Derek going into the 10th frame. All right. Looks like the ladies' game has ended, but I'm not really sure how it has ended. I'm hoping somebody will run us over the.
I think it was a very close game because we had the score in the 8th frame, and it was very close. And then we heard a lot of cheering.
There was a lot of cheering and screaming. So, here we go. Oh my goodness. Okay, so remember how we talked about earlier how games can be won by just a couple of pins. Well, here is a perfect example. The ladies, Bobbi Sisko won this last game with a score of 235 against Corri Pigeau's 233. She won it by 2 pins.
Wow, you know.
Like, you can't get any more exciting
than
that.
And that's the very first game, so we got a lot of excitement in front of us.
Oh, it looks like it. And 2 respectable games, too, right? Especially for the amount of pressure that these people are under, these bowlers are under. So let's see.
And all the games they've already played.
Oh, exactly.
It's a bit of a marathon, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what Derek does with this right corner pin.
Looks like he's right on it there.
Yeah, he's right on it.
The spare in the 10th frame.
Yeah.
Oh, he needs a score change.
Yeah, so he got a spare, which is really important. Let's hope. Now he's going to be going for a strike, obviously, to make the most out of this frame.
Yeah, with a strike here, he could have a 251 game.
And if he gets a strike here, he will have won the match.
That's right, because the most Gino could get would be 246.
Yeah. So it's really important to see what Derek Lewicki does with this last ball. And he gets a strike, which cements his win for for this game, and he'll be moving on to the next round, as will Bobbi Sisko.
Right, so we've got a couple of Southern Alberta bowlers still alive here.
Absolutely.
And
which
the
is
ladies, Bobbi Sisko is from Medicine Hat, and in the men's, Derek Lewicki is from Lethbridge. So
yeah.
it's hard not to be a little bit a homer here because we are from Southern Alberta.
Well, and Bobbi Sisko is my teammate for, for the
right.
Open. So
it's hard not to be a little bit cheering for the home team here.
Sure. But, you know, like you said, it is a big community, and you do get to know everybody here. I've gotten to know Corri Pigeau over the last few years, and she's a lovely, lovely lady.
I just met her today, and she seemed like a very nice lady.
Yeah.
I would guess that she's much younger than what it says on her profile here, but then it seems like it's not like
I'm sure she'll love to hear that. So we'll be right back into the next match of the stepladder, where the winners of this last round will be meeting the third place winners of today's tournament.
Okay, we're back again, and we're looking at the ladies' second game of the stepladder final of the 2018 Alberta Open Provincial Championship 5 pins in Medicine Hat. And Bobbi Sisko is throwing first. She's from Medicine Hat. And Bobbi has a great history in this game too. She's been in the Open Provincial 15 times. That's this tournament. And years bowling 36 years. So she's a very experienced veteran here. Been to nationals 5 times and won the women's team silver medal in 2006.
All right, so unfortunately, Bobbi got what we call in bowling tapped, where you throw a beautiful ball, yet the corner pin remains. And she did miss it on her first shot, and she's going for it again. And she picks it.
Yep, so she gets 15 in the first frame. Not the start she'd probably have liked.
No.
She'd like to get a mark in the first frame, but like you said, she was tapped on that corner pin. It could have gone, but that's the nature of the game. And now,
absolutely. And if these things are going to happen, the first frame's a great place for them to happen because there's so much game left after it.
Absolutely, yeah. So Jen Ladan is from Calgary, and Jen starts off with a strike. Jen's got a long resume as well. She's been bowling for 32 years. Her current average is 241. One thing I like about Jen's game is she definitely makes sure she gets the ball out on the lane. And that's key to breaking up splits quite often, is make sure you get what they call lift on the ball.
Absolutely. She got what we call a chop off, which is when you just get the head pin and then the 2 pins either to the right or the left of it. For some reason, this also can be a tricky little spare. Lots of people will end up either picking the 3 pin or the 2 pin on it.
Yeah, it's best to hit right between the 2 pins, but the other way to make it is to hit the outside of the 3 pin and bounce it into the 2 pin. But there's more chance that way of actually missing towards the middle instead of getting that spare on the left-hand side.
And Jennifer had no problem with that chop-off spare.
No, she was solid on that shot for sure, Michelle, yeah.
And Bobbi's up for her second frame now. Now Bobbi got lucky there. Looked like it was either going to be a head pin or a split, but she got a lucky break there and got a chop off, which is much more spareable than either of the other 2 options there.
Well, in every game it seems like there's a thing called the breaks, right?
Right.
And in every game in hockey you get a lucky bounce. In this game sometimes the pin will fall and it makes all the difference. And the next player, the pin won't fall and there's no real reason why.
Absolutely. Now this is exactly what we were talking about before, where sometimes you'll go in for that chop-off spare and unfortunately just end up picking one of the 2 pins that are up there. Now it's going to be really important for Bobbi to clean up that last pin and make sure she gets the most points that she can get for this frame. There we go. So she did clean it up, which is all she could do at that point. I should also mention that Bobbi is on our ladies team that will be bowling, as is Jennifer. So they have this singles event today, but they also move on for the rest of the weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, to compete in the team events.
Right.
Also go to nationals.
Each of the 5 players, or each of the 5 zones sends 3 players. The top 3 players go into the singles event, but they also play on the men's and ladies teams. So
Absolutely.
making the top 3 is a bonus because you get to go in the singles.
Yeah,
And
you get 2 opportunities to go to nationals,
you
really.
get 2 chances to go to the nationals, and that really increases your chances. And there's a lot of prestige in the singles too. To be the singles champion for Alberta is a big deal.
Absolutely, that means that you are the best.
Well, you're the best.
So Bobbi had thrown a strike in 3, and Jennifer came back and answered back with a strike, which keeps things interesting.
Should mention with Jennifer too here, she's got quite the resume. She was 7 times in the National Open, which would be the national event for this. She's won 1 gold, 2 silver, 2 bronze, and been on the All-Star team 3 times.
That's pretty impressive. That just goes to show you the experience level of these ladies is just, it's amazing, the skill level. So Jen's thrown another strike, which is going to make it, put a little pressure on Bobbi Sisko for sure to answer back with that.
It's important not to give up, because I've seen games where somebody will start with maybe 4 or 5 strikes in a row, and then they'll get cold, and the other player will throw 5 or 6 strikes in a row, and it'll be a totally even game going into the last frame.
Absolutely. So, oftentimes I've felt that it's better to get all your strikes in the second half of the game. Because they just seem to count more, right? Like you get that momentum, and it seems like you can make up more. If you had a bad first half and you come out in the second half, as opposed to being really hot in the first half of your game and then kind of, like you said, growing cold.
In all sports there's momentum.
Yeah.
And bowling is no different. You get momentum for a few frames, and then you have a couple of frames where you struggle a bit, and the other player gets the momentum, and away they go, and then the race is on to the 10th frame.
Focus is so important, trying to really just stay concentrated on your own game. Some people are really great at seeing what the other bowler's doing, and that might motivate them to do better. Some people, it might deter them, put more pressure on themselves.
Everyone seems to be different, and we're glad that everyone is different because it adds so much more color to our world and to our bowling game too.
Absolutely.
We've got so many different characters in this game.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And with the small ball too, there's so many different styles.
That I've seen. Well, we'll see coming up. One of our bowlers, Dianne Violini, she does a 4-step approach, where a lot of bowlers will do a 3-step approach. I've seen 1-step approach as well, and people be successful with it, which means that's the nice thing about bowling. You can come in, you can be successful in it with many, many different styles of bowling.
The release and the follow through are a big part of the game. You can have a different kind of approach, but if you've got a good follow through and a good release point, then the ball will have better direction, and it'll do better when it hits the pins.
Yeah, absolutely. I should talk a little bit about, we've kind of forgotten about the men down there at the other end.
Sure. You have an update, do you?
Yeah, I don't have an update yet, but
okay. Sure.
we did tell you a bit about Derek Lewicki in the last game, but now he's bowling against Gary Baird, who's from Blackfalds. Yeah, he bowls out of Heritage Lanes in Red Deer. Gary's been bowling for 33 years, and this is his 22nd.
I saw him when he was a kid,
Oh, yeah. He's a great, I've had the luck of bowling with him in Masters, and what a phenomenal bowler he is.
He's got great style, as most of these players do.
Absolutely. He's been to 5 Open Nationals.
Wow.
Once as a single and 4 times in the team events. So hopefully they'll bring us an update soon and see how those guys are faring over there, see how close their game is. But in the meantime, it looks like Jennifer Ladan had a right corner pin in the 5th frame but missed the spare, but did clean it up, and then followed it up with a strike in the 6th. And Bobbi's sitting with a strike in the 5th, and she's going into her 6th frame. So
Bobbi did gain a little bit there by having a strike spare. Oh,
and Bobbi's
she got
answered
it.
back with a strike.
There we go. Now
We
Bobbi's
should
got a double.
Talk about the difference of, going strike, spare, as opposed to having multiple strikes in a row, and how the point value just can grow so much more. That's really the strategy, is to get as many strikes in a row as you
Absolutely.
can.
Yes, when you've got a spare and then you throw a strike on it, you can get 30. But if you run a bunch of strikes, you can get as high as 45 on a strike.
Which Bobbi's just done. Interesting little fact, bowlers call this a turkey.
Turkey, yeah.
Oh, so I have an update on the men's game. After 4 frames, Derek Lewicki is sitting at a score of 113, and Gary Baird is sitting at a score of 73. So still really close. Nowhere near being able to call that game.
Oh, no.
So Jen Ladan's gone in, and unfortunately he's been tapped with the left corner, so hopefully she'll be able to spare that one up, which will bring her into a good place going into 8, 9, and 10, which are very important frames.
Kind of interesting. We call it 3 strikes in a row and 5-pin a turkey. In 10-pin, they call 4 strikes in a row a ham bone.
Oh, really?
And I'm not sure why they call it a ham bone. I'm really not sure why they call it a turkey either. But
No.
Anyway, we're eating both of those animals sometimes.
I'm sure, especially
both-
this time of year.
Both delicious, yeah. So anyway, Jennifer did spare up that corner pin. So again, with Bobbi on 3 strikes in a row, this has become a very close, tight match over here with the ladies here.
Absolutely. They're definitely keeping it interesting, that's for sure. Oh, and looks like she got tapped with the right corner this time. Interesting. This happens so often. They've actually come up with tournaments now that are called no-tap tournaments, where should you get the unfortunate tap on your first ball, they count it as a strike, as a little bonus.
Well, sometimes those are fun events. There's a lot of fun events that can be played. Things like Bingo Bowl.
Right.
And, there's variations that you can have some fun with sometimes, and it's a fun game to play straight up like we're doing today. But there's other variations of it that we can play around with,
Absolutely.
just for casual fun time too. Yeah.
And in leagues, if people want to be competitive, and let's say maybe you're not at this skill level, there are lots of tournaments. There's things that we call points over average tournaments, where that's kind of anybody's game, or where they'll give you a handicap, which also kind of evens out the playing field as well, which gives bowlers with a lower average an opportunity to be competitive, which is nice.
Yeah, in fact, most of the bowlers are of pins over average is what they would play.
Well, that was an unfortunate break for Bobbi Sisko. A little movement on that corner pin, but not enough, unfortunately, to give her the strike.
This really is a lifetime game, too. You can start bowling when you're just a wee little tot, and there's bowlers who are still, in fact, in Canada, I remember seeing a statistic, something like there's a number of bowlers that are over 100 and still bowling 5-pin bowling.
Isn't that amazing?
It's just amazing.
Just goes to show you that anybody of any, physical strength, or we have a lot of inclusive leagues. We have Special Olympics.
I'd like to mention that too, yeah.
Yeah, which is huge. I know in Lethbridge, I'm sure it is here as well.
It is, yeah.
Anybody can bowl. That is the great thing about this sport, really.
Yeah, my son is disabled, so it gives him a chance to go out and have some fun too.
I know in Lethbridge, I every year bowled in an inclusive league, and it's so much fun. It really is.
A lot of enthusiasm there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, now our local Medicine Hat lady, Bobbi Sisko, just threw a strike in the 9th, so she's really brought her game up. She's got
she's really putting the pressure
6
on
strikes,
Jennifer Ladan.
6 marks in a row here.
Now Jennifer Ladan has gotten tapped again. This time left corner pin, so it'll be really important for her, being the 9th frame, for her to spare this up.
This really goes to show, because Jennifer started off very hot. Bobbi started off kind of cold, but now Bobbi has more than made up the difference.
And this is kind of what we were talking about earlier, that's for sure. But Jen's picked up the spare, which is very important going into the 10th frame. So we'll see what she does. she's going to really want to strike out here in the 10th frame to give herself any chance of.
Some players like to finish the match first. Some players like to
Yeah.
be the one who finishes last.
Are you the one with the pressure? Do you like to know what you have to beat, or do you want to be the one who makes the score that has to be beaten?
Exactly.
So Jennifer's come back with a strike, which was really important.
That just tightens everything up, yeah.
Absolutely.
So these are a couple of great players here, and they can respond to the pressure, and we're just really honored to be here and watching this great bowl.
Absolutely. It's really exciting to watch this level of bowling and these tight of games. Unfortunately, I'm sure you just heard the collective O.
Yes, clunk of the head pin.
The Jennifer's hit the head pin, which was definitely not what she was hoping for at this point in the game.
You got to hit it, but it can be cruel sometimes.
Absolutely. But she did the best she could with that. She took out the 5 on the left-hand side to bring her to an impressive 272 game.
That's a very good game. You know, if you average, say, 230, 240 in this game, you're really doing something. So 270 is a good score.
Absolutely. Like that is to bowl that kind of game. That is a very good game in 5-pin bowling. Now, Bobbi's answered with a strike in the 10th, which is exactly what she would have wanted to do.
And we've got a great cheering section here behind us in Medicine Hat, and she's the home team player, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
But you heard some big cheers for Jennifer from Calgary as well.
Absolutely.
So lots of people from out of town here to cheer people on too.
No, for sure. Very supportive group. All right, Bobbi's come back with another strike, which is guaranteed Bobbi the win for this game, as she's sitting at 283 in the 9th frame. And
I think she can get a 318 or my 328. 328.
Yeah.
I think that's her maximum for this game.
Yeah.
And
which
that's
is
a
very
super game.
Very impressive game.
Super game, yeah.
Oh, but she hits with the head, finishes with the head pin. But at this point, it didn't really matter. She still finished with a 318, which is very impressive.
She had the match in hand.
She really did. Yeah.
If you're going to get one, that's the place to get it, right?
Absolutely. When it doesn't matter.
Yeah. When it doesn't matter, you already got locked up yet.
Get it out of the way. So we're just waiting to see if we can't get an update on
the men's game, which is going on a few lanes to our left here.
Unfortunately, we can't see how they're doing. Oh, wait. It's right up here. It's right in front of us.
Oh, we got the men's game right up here. It's finishing up.
So they're going into the 9th frame, it looks like. Derek Lewicki is still leading. But Gary's working off of a strike in the 8th, where Derek Lewicki has a left spare. But he had about a 30-pin lead on Gary going into the 8th frame. So let's see how this...
Oh, and Derek got a break there. He got a kickback to get the corner pin down. Kickback is when a pin comes back off the sideboard or sometimes from the back, and we'll kick out a pin and give you, say, a chop-off spare. Or
So let's see if he spares this up.
See if he spares this chop, yeah. Must have been a bit of a lucky break. We're on different lanes than they're bowling on, but...
Unfortunately, we can't see it live, but we're just going off of the scoreboard here.
Must have broke up the split, as they say, and got a chop off so he can make a spare. Split would be much harder to spare.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like he missed it.
Oh, he missed that chop off spare, so.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's.
Now, hopefully, he'll be able to. What he's going to be going for is cleaning up all his sticks. It's unfortunate to leave that 9th frame open. You really, like we talked about earlier, you really want to make sure that you're getting some sort of black mark in that.
And just about guaranteed that if you miss, say, the spare on the second ball, then the third ball is right in there.
Oh,
it's a perfect shot, and it would have been a spare.
It's because there's no pressure anymore.
Well, there's no pressure, and then you make your great shot. And if you'd made that one ball sooner, because this is a momentum change again. Gary's got a chance to make up quite a few pins here because he's working on a strike.
No, for sure. That's a really huge opening for Gary, and Gary is the type of bowler that can take advantage of it. Looks like he got a 12 count on that one.
Yes, he got hit the middle and was a chop off, but then he got that kickback that took out the 2-pin on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
So that counts 12.
So it's going to be really important that Gary spares this up going into the 10th frame. because as it stands in the 7th frame, I guess 7th frame, he was 30 pins behind.
And Gary hit it right on the nose for the spare.
Excellent. So that brings him to 173 in the 8th frame against Derek Lewicki's 201. Now that being said, like we said, he is working on a black mark going into the 10th where Derek is not. So that does give him a slight advantage. With a strike, that can bring him within 13 pins.
Yep. Within 13, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that's straight down to the wire again here.
Yeah, it makes it a very, very close match. Yeah. That's for sure. So let's see what he does. And he gets a strike.
So Gary Baird from Central Alberta threw a strike in the 10th frame, his first ball. So that gives him a 30 count back in the 9th frame. And like we said, that foundation frame, he gets 30, whereas Derek only got 15. He made up 15 pins right there.
Which is going to make the 10th frame so much more important for Derek.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Gary's really putting the pressure on Derek, which is what you expect at this level of bowling.
Well, if somebody hands you the hammer, you better use it, right?
Absolutely.
So
let's see what he does with the second ball. Oh, unfortunately, he did not get a strike on his second ball. He got a 5 count, which does leave quite an opening for Derek. Now Gary's going to want to make sure that he goes in and spares this up for the maximum count in this frame.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, sometimes a player will get a little bit nervous. They might try to shade it a bit so they don't punch a head pin and lose the count, but then they might miss the middle too, right?
Right, and he did spare it up.
He did spare it up, so he gets that 30 count in the 10th frame.
So Derek has to get a black mark in this frame. He has to get a strike or a spare because a 15 count he would lose the match by 2 points.
Yeah, so getting a strike or a spare is crucial for Derek here now. Because he has to have at least 17 in the 10th frame, and you can't do that without getting a strike or a spare.
No, you sure can't.
This is where the experience comes in, and
where you can hopefully settle your nerves down a little bit to throw that nice ball.
Confidence and making that one shot, eh?
He's probably going to take a little bit more time on this one setting up. Oh, he punches a 3-pin.
Now that makes it a tougher spare because the 3-pin spare, you've got the most of the pins over on the right-hand side, and one of those pins on the right-hand side has to come over and hit that 2-pin.
Yeah, and sometimes you can throw a great ball on that second ball, and it'll go right past that corner pin.
It is possible to put the ball on the left-hand side and have that take out the corner pin, but it's a harder shot. It doesn't happen as often.
Oh, and he does not do it. So Derek Lewicki is going to lose this game by at least 2 points.
Yeah, he needed, and that
needed a black mark in that.
Gives Gary Baird the win in this match, and he'll move on to the next match in our stepladder.
So another close game that comes down to just a couple of pins, and that's where it's so important to make sure that you're cleaning up every single frame, cleaning up all your pins on there. So we're going to take a little break while they set up for the next round. So we'll be joining you guys in just a few moments. Thank you. All right, so welcome back to the third round. On the men's side, we have Gary Baird, who just defeated Derek Lewicki, and he is against Karie Kreutz of Wetaskiwin. And then on the ladies' side, who do we have over there, Ray?
Well, on the ladies, we've got Bobbi Sisko from Medicine Hat, and she just pulled out a really close victory over Jennifer Ladan from Calgary. So she is now up against Kelsy Wilton from Calgary. Now, Kelsy has the high single for this tournament so far.
That's right.
Kelsy had 9 strikes from the start, and she finished with a 418.
Yeah, it was an amazing game.
Yeah, so that was an amazing game. She's a really
it was something to watch.
Terrific competitor, and she's got a long resume of what she's done over the years as well.
Absolutely.
She bowled her first 400 game when she was only 13 years old.
Can you imagine, hey?
And that was a 429 game, so a perfect game is 450. So at 13, she was showing the adults how it's done,
Absolutely.
right? So,
that's pretty impressive.
yeah.
Should mention Baird started off with a left corner spare. And Karie started off with a strike.
And Karie was the winner last year of the Heritage Open in Red Deer. Karie is from Central Alberta. He's on the Central Alberta team. But he won that tournament, and that's a money tournament at Heritage Lanes in Red Deer. And that's coming up again in May this year. Always have a good turnout for that, and again, some of the best competitive players in Western Canada. In fact, sometimes some people from Eastern Canada, and even they had a fellow from Baltimore there last year.
Really? Isn't that interesting?
So they're even getting people from the States who play duck pins down in the States, and they come up and play 5 pins in the tournaments here. So.
Oh, it looks like I was mistaken. Score correction there with Karie Kreitz's first frame. It was a 12 count, not a strike. So they've had to do a little fix in there on the lanes. And on the ladies' side, Bobbi Sisko has started with a right corner spare. Karie Kreutz has also been to the Open. Looks like they went to one national gold. It doesn't say which year it was, but that's pretty impressive when you think you're bowling against all these top bowlers in Canada.
Well, we've been very fortunate in Alberta. We've had strong contingents for years. And quite often, I don't want to dismiss any other province, but it's often between Alberta and Southern Ontario for a lot of these national championships. So the competition just gets hotter and hotter as they go up the lines of the nationals.
Absolutely. And you're right about Alberta being very strong. As a matter of fact, our Youth Challenge national team just won gold.
Wonderful.
Which was fantastic.
Yeah. Where were they playing at?
That is a great question. I knew you were going to ask me that. I cannot recall right now.
No, these are fine young people, and through youth bowling, they...
I believe it was Ottawa, actually.
In Ottawa. Mm-hmm. And that's where the nationals for this will be in Gatineau, which is right next door to Ottawa.
Absolutely.
And the capital region, as they call it.
Right. So the men's, as expected, has started off very close, both with spares in the first frame and strikes in the second frame, which you wouldn't expect anything less. And on the ladies' side, our Kelsy started off with a strike, but hit that unfortunate head pin on the second frame and wasn't able to clean it completely up, only got a 9 count altogether on that frame. And Karie got another strike.
Well, these players, it seems like as they get closer to the big matches, they seem to, their game they're able to turn it up a notch. Right?
Absolutely. And Karie just answered right back with a strike. So it's interesting to mention that both Karie and Karie, just as a reminder, everybody are from our central zone.
That's correct, yeah.
So these guys are teammates for the rest of the tournament. That's got to be a little tough to be playing against your teammate.
Well, I've always said, be good friends, but when you're in a match, you're trying to win, you do your best no matter who you're playing against.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what happens with these fellas. They both want to win. They're on the same team, but they would love to be the singles champion as well.
Absolutely.
And I should mention, too, that in the singles, it counts towards the aggregate championship. Aggregate is a big deal in provincial bowling.
Absolutely.
You get points for singles, for teams, and the higher you go in the event, the more points
you
will
get.
Be for your zone.
Right.
And then they get a very nice banner. We're surrounded by banners.
Yes.
There's been one in Alberta here. I don't think you can see them on camera, but we've got 6 or 7 banners in the hall.
Dating back to, I see, 1977 over here.
1977, so there's a rich history of great play in this zone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see, we've got Bobbi Sisko has finished her second frame, got a left corner pin, but unfortunately didn't spare it up. That's still puts her ahead of Kelsy after the second frame, but it's still really early in the game.
The men's have had all fills so far. They've got strikes and spares in all their frames so far, and they're in the fourth frame. So it's looking to be a high-scoring match in the men's here too. And Gary keeps that going with a spare to left corner.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just to show you how tight this game is. You know, you're sitting with Gary with 103 after 3 frames, and Karie with 100 after 3 frames. So looks like we're in for another exciting game.
Well, these players are among the best, I'd say, in Canada.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know, we're seeing that skill come through now.
Yeah. So looks like Bobbi Sisko, looks like she got a split in the 3rd frame, but was able to clean it up, which was very important. And I believe, yeah, Kelsy just got a head pin. So this game also staying very close.
Ladies are struggling a little bit right now. You know, they're still hitting the middle, but they're having those problems that sometimes happen in 5-pin bowling, where you can hit the middle, but you still can't score because you're not getting the strikes and spares.
Yeah, we always joke, you know, there's no prize for the most head pins. Maybe there should be.
There maybe should be some kind of a, what would you call that?
I don't, because you're.
Prize
I know, because you are on the middle a lot.
Oh yeah.
Right, which is.
And you have to be.
Yeah. So Gary followed up with a right pin spare in the 5th frame to bring him to 131 points in the 4th frame. Oh, and Karie answers with a strike.
Now these players, the men, they throw pretty hard. You know, the hard straight ball.
Which gets them a lot of action oftentimes on
a lot of action, but sometimes the pins will fly over some other pins. So there's no huge advantage to throwing harder, but everyone seems to have their natural speed and their natural style.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you won't see as much hard throwing on the ladies' side, that's for sure.
No.
A little more finesse on the.
A little more finesse among the ladies.
Yeah.
And, but as we saw earlier, Michelle, the highest game was thrown by a lady, not
sure
by a man.
was, which goes to show you. It's not about speed, right?
You don't have to force the ball, no.
Yeah.
It's about, there's more to the game than that.
Absolutely. So Kelsy Wilton has gotten a right corner spare in the 4th frame, which brings her score up to 44 after the 3rd frame, and Bobbi's sitting at 58. So still really close. Nobody's running away with that game just yet, that's for sure.
Yeah, the men are really tearing it off the sheet here now. Gary Baird has just picked up a strike in the 6th frame, counting a 30 on his corner pin spare in the 5th frame.
Yeah, it looks like we're in for another couple of high-scoring games, that's for sure.
That's for sure. Karie Kreutz has 2 strikes in a row now, and so the next ball he throws could, if it's another strike, it could count 45 in the 5th frame, and he would have the lead here. So
absolutely, that's where it's so important to be able to string those strikes together. And he does it. That was Gary threw another strike for a double, which these guys, what a look at the level. It's just amazing to watch this type of bowling, really.
Well, Gary had what they call the good stuff on that last ball. He got the fingers under the ball, as we say, and put a little side spin on it, and then when he does hit it thick like that, it will carry the pins better than it will if you don't have that stuff on the ball.
Yeah. Oh, and Karie just got a turkey, so 3 in a row, which brings his game up to 175 in the 5th frame. But just to show you, you know, even though Karie's gotten a lot of strikes, he's only ahead of Gary by 14 pins after 5 frames.
It's still anybody's match.
It's still, yeah, it can be anybody's match. And he's just got his 4th strike in a row.
Well, sometimes we call that being on a run.
Yeah, absolutely.
We say, you know, so-and-so's on a run.
Absolutely.
And it's almost like we used to say sometimes a guy looks like a machine or a woman looks like a machine. Of course, no human is, but when
you can just get into a flow of things, though, into a rhythm that you know, you get up there, and I call it easy bowling. You know, where he gets up there and it doesn't matter. You know, you can throw it and just your body knows exactly what to do, and that's what it looks like is going on here.
Oh.
All right, so Gary ends up with a chop off. Oh, no, looks like he got a bonus pin there, 12 there in. Or is it just a chop off? It looks like they're.
We'll have to have a little bit of a scorekeeping decision here, whether that was a chop off or whether he got the extra pin there.
Right.
And there's judges of play that have a look at that and have to decide if that was actually the 2 pins down or not. Sounds like there's some real action going on over on the ladies' side there, Michelle.
Yeah, no, Kelsy got a right corner spare in the 4th and followed it up with a strike in the 5th, which looks like it was crucial at this point. She was lagging behind Bobbi a little bit, but Bobbi's now opened for the last 4 frames, which isn't exactly what you want to do, but like we talked about earlier, you know, really the game can really change in the second half. So it depends on what Bobbi ends up doing for the rest of the game. She's going to want to turn it on a little bit.
She sure is. Yeah, she did last game. She finished strong.
Yeah.
She waited a little longer this game to get going, though. So.
Yeah, and she looks like she's definitely struggling a little bit. She did have her first middle miss on that 5th frame with a 3-5-5 for a 13 count in the 5th frame. And it looks like Gary was able to spare up that chop off, which is very important. So let's see what Karie, looks like Gary gets another frame, and we're moving into the 9th frame for the guys.
And Gary is playing a really good game. He's got marks all the way through, strikes and spares, but with those 4 strikes in a row, that puts the pressure.
Makes it tough.
Karie is throwing the bombs, as they say.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm guessing Kelsy must have got another, I'm going to guess, strike by the sound of this cheering.
Yeah, so the girls are starting to turn it on down a few frames, a few lanes to our left here. And
we're going to have to see what Bobbi Sisko does. It's going to get really important that she starts answering these strikes. Oh, and Gary had a head pin in the 9th frame. Oh, I am going to say that Bobbi got a strike, which was really important for her moving into the second half of the game.
You can really tell what happens just by the cheers sometimes.
Absolutely. Oh. Now Gary just missed the 5, which he's probably kicking himself about, but.
And that was Gary's 9th frame too. So that's that foundation frame, and he punched a head pin, and Karie really has the advantage here now.
Absolutely.
Being on 4 strikes in a row.
Oh, but he gets a split in his 9th frame. So he does still have the advantage going into the 10th frame. He's going to have a higher score as he's working on a strike. So with the strike, it takes 15 and it adds on to your next 2 balls, whereas Gary was working on a spare, which is 15 plus the count on your first ball.
Right.
So Karie does get that second ball in there to get a little bit more points. And Bobbi spared in the 7th.
So Karie here got 15 in the 9th frame on his head pin.
So right now he's about 40 pins ahead of Gary.
That was really a key frame, and
it's going to be really important for Gary to strike out in this, depending on what Karie does. Oh, and Karie hits a strike, so he's pretty much
I think he's got a lock on it here.
Tied this game up, so
yeah,
obviously not tied, but has won the game.
Thing is, so there's really no defense in bowling. You know, you can play your best game, and like in hockey, you can play good defense, but in this game, it's all offense, right?
Absolutely. You can't really control what the other bowler's doing.
You can't control what the other player's doing. You just control what you can do, and some days you're the windshield, some days you're the bug, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Karie finishes with a strong 331 game, which is fantastic. So Gary can't mathematically win this game. The highest that he can get is a 306 if he strikes out. And he got his first strike.
So that's part of being a good sport, is to finish the game out. And
absolutely.
I know in some cases in money tournaments, sometimes they'll just stop bowling, but in this tournament they want to finish the game.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's good sportsmanship.
Absolutely,
I think so.
Absolutely. So on the ladies' side, Kelsy Wilton's gotten a strike in the 8th, and Bobbi is sitting with a spare in the 7th,
and 5 in the 8th. She's just finishing up this frame.
Oh, looks like she might have left her right corner over there on her second ball, Michelle.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it looks like the game is getting away from Bobbi a little bit here. Kelsy has a 38-pin lead when they were going into the 8th frame. So I should mention Gary Baird finished with an impressive and respectable 296 game. It's tough to lose those kind of games when you've bowled so well.
Most of the time with a game like that, you'll win your match. But
Yeah.
this level of competition,
It's not a guarantee, that's for sure.
well, and sometimes that'll happen during the regular play too. There'll be sometimes we play a game where people put a few dollars into a pot, and then the high game for that game wins that pot. But sometimes you might throw a really beautiful high game, and somebody else just nudges you out and takes the pot away from you, right? So
Happens all the time.
and then you might win a game with a lower score. You might win the pot with a lower score sometimes. So this just makes it a little more interesting to have those games where you could win a couple of bucks,
Sure.
small investment. might pay off.
Absolutely. Now, Bobbi, unfortunately, has gotten a head pin in the 9th frame, so it's not looking great for this game anyways, especially with Kelsy sitting with 169 in the 7th and a strike in the 8th frame. She really needed to get at least a strike or a spare in that 9th frame to have any chance at winning this game.
And being from the South Zone, we were really hoping she would, but
We were.
This game can go either way, right? You don't know, but
And that's why we bowl the games, right? I'm guessing that by that sound, Kelsy got tapped on that 9th frame.
and Kelsy does have the high game for the tournament so far in the qualifying for this stepladder event. She had that 418 game, beautiful game, and so she's definitely full value for what she's done here this afternoon.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it sounds like she's spared it up. So really, Bobbi can't win this game. They'll finish it out, but I'm assuming. But the most Bobbi can get is a 206 right now. And Kelsy sitting at 199 in the 8th with a spare. So, and I think Kelsy just cemented it sounds like.
Kelsy had some fancy footwork there, but she still threw a strike. She let go of the ball at the right time in the right place, and then the footwork came just a fraction of a second after that. And once the ball's in motion, and if you've done everything right up to that point, you're still okay, even if you do slip or slide just a little bit.
Oh, and it looks like she just punched a head pin. That's Kelsy Wilton, but it really doesn't matter at this point, as she has this game. They're just finishing it out just for sportsmanship, like we were talking about earlier. So with that 5, it looks like Kelsey's going to finish with a 254, which is a great game. I know Bobbi's going to be disappointed with this game. But in the end, she really fought back today to make it into the step ladder. So she should be very proud of herself and to have beaten up the 2 seeds above her. Or I guess, yes, 2 seeds above her.
That's right, yeah.
So that's pretty impressive.
I think everyone who gets to this level is a winner,
Absolutely.
In fact, everybody who tries to make it to this level is a winner, just by getting out and playing the game. And it's one of those things with, we'd mentioned, it's a lifetime game and participation.
Yeah.
If you're going into a tournament like this with all these games, it really is a lot of physical work.
Absolutely.
And a lot of mental work too. So it's not, it might be easy just to throw balls, but at this level, this is tough. It takes a toll, and these bowlers really have my respect for how well they do over this kind of a tournament.
So Bobbi finished that game with a 176. So we're going to take a little break here before the next round, and we'll see you in a few minutes.